What's up, everyone? Taiki here, and welcome to episode 22 of Crypto Market Wizards. Today, I have here with me Bainy, or more commonly known as Hedgehog on Twitter. How are you doing today?
Hey, yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, so thanks for being on. So, first of all, for those that don't know who you are, can you give a brief intro on how you got into crypto and what you do now?
Sure, yeah, I first started in crypto in 2017. I was at a Sydney-based prop trading firm called Star Beta. We were essentially click trading on BitMEX. Um, so yeah, this is like very, very early on. Since then, I worked at 3 Arrows as a trader. This was in 2019. Then I started Fisher 8 in early 2020. So mostly do trading still. We do some investing as well. We also do some incubation. And one of our more notable incubations is shuffle.com, of which I am a co-founder. So yeah.
Got it. So, yeah, what was it like being part of Three Arrows? Of course, you left before the whole craziness happened, but what were some, I guess, important takeaways from your experience working for Stu and Kyle?
Definitely was a high pressure environment. Definitely was, dumbest person in the room, which is, kind of what you want to be in firms like this. Learned a lot. Learned ironic now, but learned a lot about like risk management, how they kind of run the firm. Using carry trades to generate yield, and then using that yield to kind of take on risk. So yeah, it's ironic now, but actually a lot of the stuff that I learned back then about how to run a prop firm, I use these days at Fisher 8.
Got it. Do you have any memorable trades as a trader for 3AC?
So I actually, I was their first crypto trader, and I did a lot of like the cash carry stuff back then. So we're doing like, you know, per, uh, perps versus futures, spot perps, spot futures, triangle arbs, stuff like that. I think the most memorable trade that I have is it's a really random one, but I think it's called Kyber, KNC, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And we bought the absolute bottom of Kyber, and this was probably like 6 months. Actually, this was after SNX started, but 6 months before any like real DeFi season. Yeah, that's a pretty memorable trade, and that's like kind of an example of their foresight as well. Getting in early. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it's pretty crazy because I think Kyber Network was somewhat hyped in 2020 and maybe some parts of 2021, but now I think it's
Yeah.
mostly not really used. Crypto is very cyclical, right?
Yeah.
So I guess like what are your market views now? Because I mean, there's been a lot of volatility in the markets. Uh, do you think that we're still in a bull cycle? Do you think we're mid cycle, later stages of the cycle? What are your general views of where we are?
Definitely think we're in the later stages of the cycle. I think personally for me, the top was in March. That's when yeah, that's when our trading desk kind of started positioning ourselves as short only. Um, and uh, I think we've kind of seen that like a lot of the alts that were very popular in early this year, even late last year, just really have been sold off since. Bitcoin has definitely held up. I definitely do think there is strength in Bitcoin, and I did like a recent podcast like earlier in the week where I said, like 55, 56K is kind of like an important level. Um, we're still kind of bouncing around there, but if it really does break above this level, like it's quite bullish for Bitcoin in particular. We've seen ETH be very um, markedly weaker. So yeah, it's an interesting market because unlike what we've seen in the past, not everything is going up and down in sync. There are definitely very obvious winners and losers.
Yeah, there's been a lot of dispersion in the markets. And when you say that you think the market topped in March, do you just think that it's been like a general top for altcoins, but you think Bitcoin can, decouple from the markets, or how do you define cycles?
Yeah, it's mostly through alts, to be honest. But at the same time, like with Bitcoin, so just off the top of my head, um, Bitcoin kind of topped then as well. But since then, it's kind of retested that top two times. And the most recent time actually was, when we went to 53K. I think I was very publicly bullish from that price level. And then it got up to like 70K. And this is like one of those ones where actually we were still bullish there. We held a lot of our positions still at 70K. Um, and because in our head, like if it breaks that high, it probably runs to like, 82, 85, something like that. Unfortunately, it didn't. And then we had to cut our positions again, I think at like 67K is where we got out. But yeah, it was one of that moments where Bitcoin could have really decoupled from the rest of the market if it just broke that high, but it didn't. Yeah. At the same time, like ETH was so far away from its high. It was probably like 3.4K versus like 4K at its high, and trading a lot weaker. So um, when it came to short for us, ETH was a much easier short for us to execute than BTC was.
So you mentioned that Fisher 8, I guess post Q1 or early Q2 is, I guess your mandate right now is short only. Do you do any pair trades, or do you literally just think that we're going to be in, precarious market conditions, so you're going to choose to short overvalued altcoins? Is that like what's your general strategy, with regards to like, your short strategy?
It's all about like risk reward, and I would say yeah, we're like 90% of the time short since then. The other 10% being that 53K slash 2.8K ETH bottom that we bought quite heavily. Um, I'll give an example of a trade that we did. ETH broke, this is last week, broke through 2.8K, which has been a support level for a long time. That was the same support level that we bought, last month, and it broke that this month. At the same time, BTC was nowhere near the 53K that it was at the same time that ETH was trading at 2.8K last month, and Solana was also nowhere near the 110 level. So once ETH broke that level, I think it traded at like 2.6, then it went back up and retested that 2.8K level. So we actually shorted around like 2,750. And in our heads, that's essentially a short with a 2% stop because our stop would be at 2.8K, which is like a support resistance flip. And then, it's really one of those trades where you kind of have to put yourself in the position to be lucky. And we were lucky where, you know, woke up like the next morning and ETH was trading at like 2.2K. It really just was like a 12-hour trade, even though we were, happy to hold it for a while, right?
Hmm.
So that's an example of like a trade that we took on the short side. That same trade couldn't have been taken in size, uh, in our opinion, on BTC or Solana, even though they probably did drop the same amounts anyway. But with ETH, we were able to risk like 2% and essentially collect like 20% or 25% in half a day.
Yeah, the market dump this weekend was pretty brutal. And I guess, you think of everything in terms of risk reward, and the sustained weakness in ETH, I guess, allowed for that particular opportunity. So I do want to talk about ETH BTC. I think it's something that everyone has thought about, especially me as an ETH bag holder, right? I am literally this guy, this Bojack of I'm gonna kill myself. It's fucking over. It's over. I'm never coming back from this. Uh, so I think you've been just pretty bearish, right, throughout the entire run up. And I think you've been
Yeah.
just been bearish, like the altcoin sector in general. And even back in May, you're like, yeah, like, ETH probably bottoms, best case 0.04. Like, what's your general view of ETH? Um, I love how 49% of the votes was like, yikes, it's like, oh my goodness. But like, what are your general thoughts?
I mean, on the ratio itself, it's actually quite hard to trade. If you put up a chart of ETH BTC, it's kind of just like a ranging chart. How we like to trade is we kind of like to see um, dislocations to the upside or the downside, and then we kind of mean revert that. With ETH BTC, it really has just been, range trading for, in our opinion, the best part of, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. And it's kind of breaking below that range now. So yeah, I really, don't know where the bottom of ETH BTC is as of right now, but it's one of those things where um, when we see the right things kind of forming, we'll take a punt on it. But at this point in time, there's no the reward isn't there for guessing where the ETH BTC bottom is. I just yeah no like those options. I just yeah in our opinion, it was one of those options.
Yeah, and I literally stole this tweet from you. The
Oh
heaviest
yeah,
object.
yeah, I posted that. Yeah,
Yeah, I think you posted this like a year ago, and I was like scrolling
yeah.
your Twitter to like look for questions, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna steal this tweet. Yeah, but like, why do you
Yeah,
think
I
ETH has
remember
been so
posting that.
weak? Yeah, like, why do you think ETH has been so weak? Is it just the lack of innovation? The lack of empathy they have for its users? Like, why do you think ETH has been such a cucked slash mid curve trade this cycle?
This cycle, it's harder to say, but the reason why I've been bearish on ETH for quite a while is because of like where the value is going. Like ETH has all the L2s, and in our opinion, the L2s are kind of stealing part of ETH's value away from it, right? Yes, it benefits ETH, but each of these L2s has its own token, which is also worth in the billions, and that kind of fractionalizes where the value of the ETH ecosystem goes. So that's why we've been bearish on ETH for a long, long time. Obviously, the market kind of changed its sentiment towards ETH because of the ETF, etc. But yeah, in our opinion, that's probably why it continues to trade so heavy.
Got it. And I think maybe it's too early to tell, but the ETH ETF flows have been mild, right? Maybe not as great as people thought. How do you think
Mhm.
the ETF affects how the majors trade, like notably Bitcoin and ETH?
Overall, I really don't think it changes that much. A lot of the signals that we were using before in terms of like technical indicators, they still work. Um, it's just that the flows are coming from a different place, right? It like people may say, oh, it dampens volatility. No, no, it absolutely hasn't so far. BTC is still a very, very volatile asset. Do we see very like orderly buying at specific hours of the day? Yeah, sometimes we do, but yeah, it's still a very tradable asset. Like I remember people saying that, oh, this is going to make BTC trade more like FX or trade more like gold. It hasn't. So um, yeah, I haven't really seen any changes to our trading so far.
Got it. So I do want to talk about this tweet that you um, tweeted. This was October of last year. It should be obvious by now that a lot of the excess of the last cycle was driven by Alameda just gambling with customer funds. Yet some of you
Uh-huh.
or me continue to call for a repeat of said market cycle every single time in 2023. Check yourself. So we can talk a lot about
This
this,
is
but I guess like, how do you like manage expect? Or I guess the question can be around like, managing expectations for cycles. Do you want to just I guess touch on this tweet and like what you meant by this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think probably tweeted a month later. Like I was very openly still bearish at this point in time, and this was probably right before we pumped, like a week or two later. Um, yeah, I'm very happy to say that I was wrong. I just didn't see where the flows for a lot of these altcoins would come from, um, in another cycle. Um, I was mostly wrong, but I still think I was right in that like a lot of the old dinosaur coins with a lot of overhang just, didn't pump nearly as much this cycle. But then you do still have, the new meme coins, which I'm not sure how many people saw that coming, but pumping a lot, right? So yeah, this tweet is definitely like a wrong, like in hindsight is super super wrong because we did have excess again. Um, but yeah, a lot of stuff like Litecoin never pumped again. AVAX is probably I want to say 5x from the bottom. That's still pretty good, but yeah, like Litecoin, XRP, um, all of like Alameda's Solana coins, I think didn't do too well either. Even though the whole Solana ecosystem did well. So yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to needle you. I guess I was just more curious
Oh no,
to,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah, hear your thoughts.
No, I've
Yeah,
been
but I
needled
guess,
so many times on Twitter. It's just, doesn't
yeah,
yeah, I mean as a trader it really doesn't mean anything to me. I get needled, but at the same time we're still, trading, we're still making money most of the time. So yeah, it doesn't really matter to me at this stage anymore.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I totally understand because I get needled all the time as well for all my mid curve takes. And I think 10 days later you posted this, right? It's like congrats, bulls. I
Yeah.
can only laugh at
Oh
how
yeah.
wrong I
Oh, you
was.
you've got it right there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, this month,
I think
and
this was at like 36K or something. So yes, we probably missed realistically 26 to 36K, like that pump in BTC. But after that, we corrected our bias, right? So, the best thing to do in trading is to minimize your losses. We weren't short that whole run up, but yes, we weren't long. But then we long the rest, and then the rest since that tweet, we've mostly been in sync with the market, but definitely also missed all of these meme coin pump ups. Yeah, didn't see that coming.
yeah, and I guess one thing that I think a lot of good traders that I've met have talked about is humility and just being okay with being wrong and just changing your bias, right? And that's what good traders do. And you had this tweet, I guess, from a month ago. Society is obsessed with being right. In reality, you probably only really need to be right, with conviction twice in your life to quote unquote make it. Three times, and you probably have generational wealth. All assuming you have proper risk management when you're wrong. So I guess these are two. I have two questions, right? So like, why do you think society slash crypto Twitter is obsessed with being right? And second, like how do we make it right? I think a lot of my viewers, my audience, including myself, we all want to make it this cycle. Assuming that the cycle will continue going on. Like, how do you properly, I guess, like make it without taking on insane amounts of risk? And what's, I guess, an example of some high conviction trades that you've taken? I know this is a loaded question, so we can just slowly
Mm,
tackle each topics one by one, but I think they're all somewhat related. So I'm just keen to
yeah.
hear your thoughts.
Okay. All right, we'll go through one by one.
Yeah,
So obsessed with being right, I guess, it's always the connotations of like being right associated with success, I think, in life. And it like a lot of I guess rich people as well were right on something and that's why they're rich, right? But at the same time, they don't have to be right all the time. They just have to be right, a few times. An example for me personally, like if I look back through my career, I can probably pinpoint maybe two, like I would say three instances now where I think define my whole career. And so, excluding getting into crypto, I would say the first time that I really bet hard on myself was Bitcoin at like 3.5K. This was late 2018. And that's when I converted all my net worth into BTC. And I held that up to like 9K. It continued to go to like 14K, but I sold everything at 9K. I said, okay, this is where I think it tops. At the same time, I was still trading, but this is where I, unload all my crypto exposure or my spot exposure. So that's once. The second time is I would I want to combine these two, but it was almost exactly a year later, March 2020, that crash. I did the exact same thing. I the key thing is I didn't use any leverage, but I again loaded up everything at that point that I had in crypto into BTC again. And I have a tweet somewhere as well that I was the bottom tick on BitMEX for I think it was the June futures. They were trading like 10% below spot. And I just went all in at that price. But yeah, the key being no leverage, because if we sold off any more, and I think we know now that that price was defended, I would have been liquidated. But I didn't know at that time either, right? That's kind of like 3 months later, I sold everything again. I think it was at this time like 10K BTC. So roughly the same price that I sold in the first, sorry, the year previous. But this time I rolled everything into DeFi. I was probably one of the earliest guys farming. Let me see, like M stable, balancer, compound, YFI, and it was really in like that like 2 month period where yeah that decision just kind of um yeah just kind of propel like rocketed my net worth. And I think you can agree with me that like farming all those things was very, very low risk, very, very high reward as well. For me, it was low risk because I got all the smart contracts looked at. They were the exact same ones as the ones that SNX had for staking. And I just dumped everything I had into yeah M stable, and then I think it was compound after that. Then it was balancer, and then everything into YFI. So um, yeah, and then I can confidently tell you that I haven't been right with conviction since until we incubated shuffle.com. So after those 2 months, yeah, I did some DeFi farming, but I wasn't the best performer. I also missed out on like loot. That was like a huge winner for some people. Completely missed that. Completely missed NFTs as well. Um, I have a coolish story where I used to own like 150 crypto punks. I bought them at like 1 ETH each. I sold them all under like 6 ETH. And then, 3 months later, they're trading at like, 30, 50 ETH, right? So completely missed that. Um, I didn't ride the DeFi boom in early 2021. I did short a lot of it. I didn't ride the ETH either. Didn't write any of their own forks. So, like I've only been right with conviction twice, right? And that's already generated a lot of wealth. And um, the thing is, like when the times when I'm wrong, I just haven't lost everything, right? Or I haven't lost a significant chunk of that wealth, and that's what's kind of kept me in the game. Um, yeah. And then touching
Yeah.
upon shuffle.com, I think for me, I've always believed that like crypto and gambling is a very natural use case. And for me, that was again like a very low risk, high conviction trade, but it's not like a trade in the normal sense. It cost us between 500K and like 750K to get that up to launch. So if you think of the risk reward, if it doesn't do well, yeah, I lost that amount of money. So there's a very defined risk amount with launching that. And when I did the math in my head, that was another high conviction trade that I think had low risk to it.
Yeah, I guess you view everything in terms of like risk reward. But I guess in order to take advantage of these large market dislocations, such as the COVID crash, or whenever we see these big wicks to the downside, you're there to take advantage of the opportunity. But I guess the problem, at least for me personally, is that even last cycle I had some banger trades, but maybe I was a little bit too naive, a little bit slightly I don't know, like delusional, and maybe I'm like way too optimistic in this space. Where I kind of like just, I mean, I didn't get like wrecked too much on the downside, but I still bag held a bunch of things. Like, what qualities do you think you have that allows you to have that, I guess, cynicism, that allows you to part ways with your bags, when everyone else is thinking that's like the future of finance?
Yeah, it's just emotional, I guess. But at the same time, like for me, you'll never see anything in my portfolio where I've just held it for many multiples. And some people may see that as not having vision. For me, it's completely fine. I'm happy to take the easy, you know, I think the thing I held for the most multiples was probably Wi-Fi, and I did like a 15x there. But I'm very happy to take that 15x. It was a very easy 15x. I could have held it for 60x, but in my head, that's when it gets hard, right? I can't really justify holding it. So yeah, it's all really about what really works for you. If you're a true VC, you kind of have to hold things to zero and hold, those one or two things that go, two, 300, 500x, right? So it's all about your mentality. My mentality is as a trader. So if I see something head to where I think is fair value, I'm very quick to cut it. I don't, and then if I see it, do another few multiples after that, it doesn't make me feel anything because I stuck to what my plan was. And as long as I followed my plan, I'm happy. If there are things that I can do to tinker with my plan and improve it for the future, that's great. But yeah, what's done is done. And there's always improvement for the future.
Yeah, what's done is done. And no, someone asked me this question, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts. And someone said, "Hey, like Taiki, um, or this is like my friend. He was like, yeah, like someone asked me, like today, right, August 2024, if I should get into crypto, or
Oh,
if his friend should get into crypto." And my friend was like, probably not. It's way too risky.
right.
And I guess like I'm talking about this because last cycle we had all these opportunities, right? It was relatively easy to be early to DeFi if you were paying attention, like alt L1 trades last cycle also, right? If you were paying attention, even NFTs, even though I also missed, I guess, that particular pump and whatnot. Um, like, what do you even tell, I guess, new market participants? Like, where are the opportunities? Because I think everyone longs for the DeFi summer 2020, right, where everything just moves, and we were early on something, right, some new primitive. It seems like that those dreams are no longer here. Everyone's so jaded because there's nothing to do. So let's just airdrop farm and buy meme coins. So yeah, I guess like what are your thoughts on that? It's like what do you even tell new market participants if they want to, I guess, make it?
Um, I've had people message me earlier in the cycle. Had some people go, "Oh, I just um, quit my job in crypto, or I just want to try and make it on my own." My advice to them was always find your niche. There are definitely still niches out there that can make you money. An example here, I think I told them, find your niche. Your niche is, either a sector or, a sector that you know really well. It could have been AI. If you tracked AI very closely this cycle when you were early to it, you still could have made multiples, right? Um, to me, it wasn't nearly as easy as DeFi summer was, but those multiples were still there. Like if you were early to, Tau, etc., those things weren't multiples, right? So the opportunities are still there. The advice I give is to focus. So this particular person that I told to focus, uh, we didn't keep in contact. She went off, and then I think she messaged me 3 months later. She's like, "Yeah, I focused my attention on Say network, and I was just like early to a bunch of stuff there, and I made good money there." So that's and to me, like if you ask me anything about Say network, other than the ticker and the chart, I know nothing about the stuff on there. So the market has grown bigger, and with that someone in crypto cannot focus on everything in crypto anymore, unlike it was in 2020 or you know 2021, and obviously before that. And there are definitely these pockets that are still ripe for people still getting started to focus their attention on and be immersed in the community and be early in that way. Yeah, there's still money to be made.
A follow-up question to that is, I think one of the reasons why there's been such a dispersion in the market is because there are way too many coins and there's not enough money in the space to pump everything. And as a result, like the median price or the average price just goes down across the board. Do you think that's like a problem with the crypto space? There's just like so many coins that doesn't really do anything. And as a result, people lose money, they become more cynical, they buy memes, and the developers get jaded. And it's like this negative flywheel, I guess, of vibes that I've noticed for like the past 6 months.
Um, no, I don't really think it's a problem. Yeah, it's a problem if you. Uh, it's a problem that it's harder to make money now. But is that really a problem? That's just like the natural cycle of an industry, right? As
Yeah.
it gets more and more mature, it becomes harder and harder to make money. That's all it is. Yeah, I don't really think it's a problem. Um, but yeah, I mean, like everyone, I would love to have easy money all the time. It's just that's not the reality anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess this kind of ties into the previous tweet I talked about, where like last cycle we had so much leverage in the ecosystem, maybe some sprinkles of fraud that pumped everything. But I think if you look at like OTC like lending desks, there's not that much leverage in the ecosystem. Um, so maybe we were not going to see like crazy boom and bust cycles, and maybe it's going to be like a slow drift upwards over a longer period of time. Do you kind of believe in that type of, I guess, the super cycle? I mean, it's not. It's kind of like a prolonged super cycle, or do you think crypto is going to continue having these like boom and bust cycles?
I do think crypto will eventually mature, but until then, yeah, it will have the boom and bust cycles. It really depends on how accepted the asset becomes, globally, I guess. We're already seeing with BTC that um, even for me, our bust cycle for BTC is, sorry, our bust price for BTC is something like 30K. And if you look at that price, that's just a bit over 50% from the top, right? And you compare that to what we've seen in the past, and it's a huge improvement. But then obviously you look at the altcoins and they're still doing, 10, 15x down 90% stuff. So yeah, it really depends on like how accepted the asset becomes, how institutionalized it gets. But eventually, I think we'll see like the top assets in the space stop having these massive boom bust cycles. In saying that, though, um, you look at like the top stocks that this year, you could argue that they're doing boom bust cycles as well, right? So yeah, it also depends on like what's the flavor of the year type of thing. Boom bust cycles in the markets will never ever go away. That's just how human psychology works.
Yeah, got it. I want to share this audience question. Mr. Coin Rotator here asked, no, what does your market timing heuristic look like? Do you go off of sentiment? Is it more TA? Like, how do you try to, time tops and I guess buy bottoms? Is it like, do you notice like froth, right, in the market? So you sell, or yeah, can you just like generally talk about, your market timing heuristic?
Yeah, we're mostly TA traders, but so we're divergence traders, mean reversion traders. There are a bunch of indicators that we use, but we also use this in confluence with like market sentiment. So the reason why I said March, I think March for BTC still had leverage in it. When we got to that top, there was a lot of leverage. Like OI increased. I think funding was very, very positive across the board. And then we hit that top, and then we just had a decent sell off. However, the next couple of times we retested that top, we didn't really have the same amount of leverage. But at the same time, we kind of got there, didn't do anything, and went back down again. So Yeah, it's a combination. It's mostly TA, but yeah, also a bit of like market sentiment as well. But the sentiment itself is also not just based off feels. There are some feels, but you can see, oh, meme coins are pumping like crazy, like altcoins are going parabolic, we know that things don't go parabolic forever, right? So once you see that, and then you see BTC up quite high with a lot of funding, all right, it's a decent bet that it's not a matter of if this tops, or but a matter of like when this tops, right? Um,
Yeah.
the same can be seen a set of bottoms, and uh, like one could argue that actually no, they wouldn't argue, but the BTC bottom was what, late 2021, oh sorry, 2022 with FTX, but the ETH bottom was actually when 3 Arrows capitulated, like yeah. So if you go back then, you could see the same like sentiment plus funding, and make the same argument for bottoms, right?
Got it. Um, yeah, I guess it sounds like you're pretty bearish short to midterm. But what is it going to take for you to flip bias and join the bull side again? Is it based off of price, like invalidations, or yeah, like what do you need to see in order for you to think that the cycle goes on?
Yeah, price invalidations. The Nasdaq is actually trading a lot cleaner than BTC is, for in our opinion. I had 18.4 as a very key level. It's kind of rejected that level already. But if it breaks above that level, I think we could see some continuation. Um, BTC is probably around this level as well. If it flips this level, that's very, very bullish as well. But at the moment, I think what people usually call this is like a bearish retest or something. That's what we're seeing right now. Um, yeah, it's the same thing where most of the easy money from the short side has been made already. So we're not going to be as aggressively short anymore as we were in the previous few months. But yeah, we're still going to prefer the short side for now. But as you can see, like last month, we went very heavy long. Um, and that's the first time in maybe like 6 months that we've done that. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, I want to pivot the conversation to more, I guess, Twitter and I guess the people in this space. Uh, you mentioned that life just improved dramatically for you when you stopped tweeting and spending time on social media. Can you just expand on what you mean by this?
Like for a lot of us, Twitter is kind of like the same as TikTok. Like there's a lot of doom scrolling going on. There's a lot of like refreshing to see your notifications, or someone's, commented, etc. So yeah, a lot of us like doom scrolling. I was spending a lot of time on Twitter last year. I was tweeting a lot. I was also, very publicly like calling the directions that I thought the market were going. Uh, it the the good thing is that it didn't affect my trading. I'm already at the stage where I don't really care what people say to my tweets, or how wrong I am. Um, so it didn't really affect my trading. But at the same time, like, um, you just catch yourself like reading comments, or refreshing the page, and doesn't really add anything, right? I actually haven't really tweeted that much at all this year up until maybe a month or two ago. And the funny thing is that it didn't really affect my life at all. I still traded the same way. I don't think that being on Twitter would have allowed me to catch meme coins at all. It's not that's just not in my MO to catch something like that. So yeah, you just realize that, oh, actually, it's not that important. It's not that important part of my life, or even my work. Yeah. So that's kind of what I figured out. is probably different for different people. Some people, make a living by being on Twitter, but for us, yeah, Twitter's just, yeah, I don't really have a description, but it's not a necessary part of my life.
Yeah, Twitter, I guess, is like if you want dopamine, you go to Twitter and then, you'll get shit posts and, I guess, you know, wallet on, like wallet trackers and all these threads.
Mm.
But I guess it's mostly just noise, right? And this is somewhat related. And, I personally know that, you like lent money to people in the space and like none of them has paid you back. Like, can you just like talk about like your experience that like, first of all, how do you know who to trust in crypto? And like, I guess like, what have you learned from just getting rugged by people in this space throughout the years?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not even a pattern. It's just like you're just getting rugged by uh close and people who are not close to you, right? I've been rugged by all. Um, trust in this industry is still very paramount. Like, if they decide to rug, um, they decide to rug, right? So yeah, it's crazy. Like the most I've been rugged for, I think this was very public. I lent like $1 million to, man, I forget his username now. It's been so long.
Is
But
it
Josh
CM?
Green from Orthogonal. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Josh Green. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
convexity monstrosity or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, $1 million.
convex monster. Yeah.
Yeah, legal contract and all. Still rugged there. So it just goes to show, like, it doesn't matter how careful you are. If they want to rug, they're just gonna rug, right? Desperate times create desperate people, and that was like after FTX. I said, yeah, I got legal documents written up, everything. Yeah, money gone. But thankfully, like most of the amounts that I lend, it's like 1K to I think the second biggest after $1 million is like 15K that I haven't gotten back yet.
Okay.
So the rest are still thankfully small. It wasn't really a complaint. Like apart from the $1 million, I lent $1 million because I had a legal contract for it. But apart from that, there are no contracts. And yeah, I've only just lent like what I'm willing to lose. So yeah, it was more of a whine more than a, oh my God, like this sucks type of thing.
Yeah. Like for me, like I've like over the years, I just tried not to trust anybody in this space. It helps if I've met them in person or I've seen their face or like they're doxxed. But even like dox people, right? They can just rug, similar to like your case. Um, yeah, I guess you just take it on the chin and you move on, right? There's like not much you can do.
Yeah, as long as you like, again, going back to risk reward, judged it correctly, it will be fine. Like if you got rugged, it's fine. So yeah, like I said, at the end of the day, you still have to trust people. The lesson
Right.
is not to not. Sorry, the lesson is not to ever trust people again.
Got it. I want to pivot the conversation to this. So, obviously, I think last year you fought Loom Dart, right? And you won.
Uh,
Congrats. And
yeah,
this
thank you.
year, you're going to fight Nick Carter. Obviously, I think Nick Carter is a more terrifying opponent compared to Loom Dart. No offense to Loom Dart, but
Mm.
Nick Carter, I mean, he looks he looks like a he looks like a strong opponent. I guess, my question to you is like why did you start like doing like this fight night and like boxing, like what did you learn from it and has it improved, I guess, your personal and financial life at all or trading like career at all?
Um, for financial, that's very hard to say. So I'm not gonna say, hey guys, go and exercise, and you're gonna make more money.
Yeah.
But definitely like I would say like ever since late 2021, I've been trying to improve quality of life, and it didn't really happen in 2022. But I tried to fight CFN in 2022. I DM'd a few people. None of them said yes. But understandable. 2022 was a pretty shit year for everyone.
Mhm.
So I didn't start trading. But I'm the type of person where if there's nothing to work towards, I don't do it. Like if I've gone to the gym, many different times, restarted many different times, lifting weights or whatever. But in my head, it's like, okay, cool. I lifted more. That doesn't really motivate me. So CFN was motivation because it's like, hey, I'm actually working towards this fight. If I win or lose, that actually means something to me. So that's why I got started with CFN. But I was already looking for like an activity like that that I could work towards. Um, yeah, it's definitely been a real plus though in my life. Like, I think at my heaviest, um, after I started crypto, I was probably like 84 kilos. I'm 74 kilos right now. I was 78 for the fight with Loom. And yeah, I DM'd you this yesterday. I still eat like shit. It's just the fact that I'm out there exercising so regularly, turning up to training. So yeah, it's been a huge improvement in my life. The other benefits of like having regular training, especially in the mornings, like I can't stay up late anymore. So, it's like going to bed at 11, waking up at 7, which is like a very, very normal sleep schedule. For me, during the like peak grinding times, it was like sleep at 2 to 3 a.m. Very regularly. Wake up the next morning at like 10 a.m. type of thing. And yeah, okay, you still get the same amount of sleep, but the sleep quality is not as great, right? So yeah, there's just like a lot of different like small, life health benefits that I've seen.
Yeah. I started working out recently too, and I thought I would start eating healthier, but I'm getting like Popeyes like twice a week at least. Like
Right.
like the Americans will tell you Popeyes is straight up crack. Like it's so addicting. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how fast food can be that good. Yeah, I think I resonate with your wealth versus health like type of thing. Where I think you said like wealth wise you're doing fine, but now you're focusing like more on the health side. And I think about that too. Like like our time in this world is like not really guaranteed. I've lost like
Mm.
family members due to like cancer and stuff, like pretty rough, and it just like happens really really fast. Um, I don't know. I think it also gives you like perspective on like what's important. Um, I don't know. I think people focus too much on like I guess like markets, but you have to take care of yourself and think of yourself as like an athlete, right? Because trading is kind of like if you think of it as a sport, maybe that's like a better way to approach things. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that like look, definitely needs to be balanced, right? And the older you get, you know, in general, the more you need to kind of balance your life, right? I was young, yeah, I was grinding hard. I won't deny that. And but at the same time, uh, personal relationships weren't really working out. Like my health was I wasn't getting sick, but at the same time, like I was 84 kgs, right? I think when I graduated high school, I was like 72. So you can just imagine from when I was kind of like very active playing sports every day to, 84 kgs, not really like exercising at all, sleeping poorly. But yeah, you know, making money. But at some point in your life, that kind of flips. I think you go, oh, okay, like actually, I've got a lot of this, but at the same time, I want to start feeling better. Yes, money does make you happy, but at some point that stops, right? And all these things like sleeping better makes you feel better, right? Even eating better, or losing weight, like being a more normal weight, like stuff like that, like going outside and actually touching grass, not just saying you're gonna touch grass, right? So like stuff like that, like it makes you happier. So yeah, there comes a point in time where like for me, I was just like, yeah, this is what I want to work towards. And it was with the same kind of like drive that I had with, working towards like getting better at trading and like making more money, etc. So like for the Loom fight, I was in there like 4 or 5 days a week. Yes, I only trained for like 4 months, but 4 or 5 days a week for 4 months is probably what a normal person who does boxing does in like 2 years, right? So it was doing that. It was getting regular sleep. Um, yeah, I didn't really eat healthier, but I still lost for that fight like 6 kgs. And yeah, you know, managed to keep the weight off. And yeah, I can't say that there are any downsides to getting healthier. So yeah.
Yeah. I guess like going back to crypto, it feels like, or if, to me, it sounds like, I guess you kind of believed in the space. Or, I mean, you were like, like 2019 or 2018, 2019, like you're buying the dip, you were early to crypto punks, some DeFi bags. And I think one thing I've noticed is that the longer someone is in crypto, the more cynical and pessimistic they get towards the space. Like, why do you think that is?
Absolutely.
And I guess like how has your perception of crypto changed ever since you got into it first in around like the 2017 timeframe?
Yeah, when I first got in, definitely thought a lot of this was going to be the future. Um, Obviously, the like Uber copycats and stuff weren't going to make it, but a lot of like if I could dig through my old wallets, there are like so much of the so I probably had like 20% of this like privacy shitcoin that had like a 2 million FTV or something, or yeah, exactly. I still have like a lot of crypto kitties. I had like a lot of top shots, and punks. Um, what else? What are some other like cope bags that I had a lot of?
Like M stable.
M stable, M stable. Luckily, I saw that, but
Yeah.
uh, yeah, like it's. Oh, there was that thing that what was it called? It was a edgeware. It was like one of those things where you had to. It was a luck drop. You had to lock your ETH, and you would get like edgeware tokens, and it was like a Cosmos. Cosmos? No, sorry. I think it was a Polkadot parachain or something like a EVM parachain, stuff like that. So yeah, definitely being caught like holding a lot of bags to zero. Um, yeah, you get cynical because you just seen so many of these things like boom, get attention, everyone's like kind of piling in and then failing. And the sad thing is like there are probably only like I don't know 10 protocols that I would say I actually find useful still these days. Stuff like Aave, that I would actually say like are useful products that possibly a lot of the world would use, right? That's what makes you cynical. Yeah, it's nothing more than that. I would say I'm a boomer, but um, this also goes back to what I was saying before about how many times you have to be right. I think it's fine to be a boomer. Like I was right before. I don't necessarily need to be completely on the ball anymore, right? That's for people to kind of come in and find that opportunity again. And yeah, it's fine to be a boomer in the space. It's fine to be cynical. It's also fine to miss things. What is not fine is I think those people that just sit around going, bear posting the entire way up. When it goes down, they start celebrating. Like that's what I find not fine. I find that pretty unhealthy behavior. Those same people probably got liquidated on the way up and actually are making nothing on the way down. They're just kind of preying on crypto's downfall for no reason. But everything else I find fine.
Yeah. It seems like, you don't really have an ego when it comes to trading. I think I guess emotionally detaching from your bags and the money is important. But like, what are some other traits that you've seen, whether it be from yourself or other friends that you have, that make them successful traders slash investors in crypto?
Um, there are plenty of different types of traders. Being able to get ahead of the attention cycle, that does really well. Being able to see where, guess where the trends are going to be also does very well. Back in the day, it was, being able to read smart contracts, stuff like that. Like a lot of this is just about drive. It's about like that drive to find your edge. Um, yeah, it's not one thing that I can say except for drive. I think the guys who do the best just have the most drive to find either their niche, their edge. Um, yeah,
Yeah, because I guess there's so much things in crypto. It's hard to be, a jack of all trades, and like master of none. Yeah, maybe it's best to just focus on like one or two things that you're really good at and just keep pushing that. Um,
yeah.
sorry,
Some people are really good at meme coins, and they just made a bag of meme coins. But I know nothing about meme coins, and that's great. Like these guys have found their niche. These guys, they're guys who their niche is like on-chain shitcoins, MEV. There have been plenty of things that have made people a lot of money in this space, and they're all very, very different to each other.
right. So thank you for your time. I have two more questions, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Like one is, it's like if you could give advice to your younger self, maybe when you first started crypto, what would it be? It can be crypto related or just like life related, but general advice.
I think the advice would just be the earlier I learned proper risk management, the better. And yeah, it would have been better for me both financially, but also, health wise. Yes, because like, yeah, you probably would have made more money or lost less money. But at the same time, like in 2018, I already made my first million by the middle of 2018, but I proceeded to lose like 95% of that by the end, right? So that mentally fucked me up quite a bit, sleepless nights. And like, it's crazy. Like when people say sleepless nights and you've never had them, they don't mean anything to you. But in that moment, it's like, okay, yeah, you go to sleep at like 2 a.m. Bam, like you're awake again at 3 a.m. You check your phone, stuff like that. And that like really affected my health. And, health is one of those things where you have to make like a dedicated, um, attempt at as well, right? So I think it's probably from then where I just like started living more and more unhealthily. Yes, I became more disciplined, fixed the risk management and everything, but that still kind of affected me for a few years before I had the mind space to then focus back on health.
Yeah, I've had those sleepless nights as well. I think after
Yeah,
you fumble the bag, right, whether it be bag holding something or just making some mistake,
yeah,
I would sometimes fall into this loop of just like hating myself. It's like why did I do this? I'm
yeah,
so
yeah,
stupid.
absolutely.
And it's like when I was in that state emotionally or like mentally, like I just couldn't focus on other things. So like I would be missing opportunities. I think Susan had this quote. It's like
Yeah,
don't focus on the bags you fumbled in the past because you might be fumbling bags now. That's way more important. And I think over time, I think I've learned to be okay with I guess like my mistakes. Being just embracing the mid curve nature of how my brain works, and I think that's made
yeah, yeah,
me a much better,
exactly.
like happier person. And like I think it's also like made me, yeah, like a better, I guess, trader, investor, farmer, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I mean that's your MO. Like I said, like some people are just like momentum traders, or some people do like the boom bust stuff. So it's whatever your MO is. For me, my MO is mean reversion, and my MO is like finding things that I think are undervalued and overvalued, holding them to fair value and then just getting out. And yeah, it's helped a lot, like you said. Yeah, those questions, those are crazy. Like I would catch, like if I were to think about what I was thinking to myself, it'd be like, damn, I wish like I could rewind time like 24 hours, like shit like that. Like just that's impossible, you know? And you start, yeah, that sort of like, yeah, it was in the moment, it was like, oh my God, like please, like why did I do this or etc. But yeah, once you learn to control your risk or follow your plan and you don't have those anymore, yeah, your life just improves so much.
Yeah. You mentioned, you try to find things that are overvalued and undervalued. Like, how do you even value like these coins? Do you have like some mental model of how much these things should be worth, or is it more around, oh, it's down too much in this short period of time, so I think it's going to be revert. Let me just buy, or something along those lines.
Yeah, a lot of most of the perp stuff that we do is based off TA, right? But then a lot of like the let's say something that we bought recently that was undervalued and we got lucky, but making money is all about putting yourself in the position to be lucky. Aave is something that we bought at like high 80s, like right before they announced that buyback announcement. It was crazy. And like Fisher A, I think we also published like an article like the day after they announced that. But that thing we were writing like the week before. So um, yeah, it was like high 80s, and we were discussing and we are like, yeah, like if this thing gets sold off, it's got revenues backing it. Like there's a perpetual like narrative that you can write for something like that. And it's undervalued because actually the downside is super capped. But there's a ton of upside. Like if you do P ratios and stuff, I think Aave was trading at like 4 or something. Like it was something like that. So yeah, there are some times that we do like some fundamental you work, but that's mostly on the undervalued side. For the overvalued side, like shorting, that's a very dangerous game, and you have to have proper risk management there. But for undervalued stuff, you can easily size it so that even if the asset goes to zero, you're only losing what you're okay with losing, right?
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I'm also a Aave bag holder. I didn't know you bought Aave. Wait, is this like a trade? You just like buy it and you just like eventually sell it like 30% higher, or is it more of like a hold it for like a longer period of time? I'm asking selfishly, by the way, because
Um,
I'm a holder as well.
right. It's a bit of both. Like you buy, so how I think about it is like you kind of buy it in size and um, you put a mandate that you will never short this asset. You buy it, you hold it. Obviously, when it does like some crazy stuff, like I think Aave pumped like what 30% in 2 days or something. As a trader, we take some off, but yeah, you never get rid of the core position. You'll always be long Aave until for us that fair value is reached. Then we kind of get out. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's how we would think of the position.
What is the fair value of Aave so I can front run you when I sell my position?
I like if Aave went to near $200, I think we would get out of everything. Yeah.
Wow. So a humble 2x and you're out. I was hoping you'd say something much higher, but it's okay. Beggars can't be
I
choosers.
mean, look where like fair value, guys. That probably is the fair value, but based off my history, we sell there, it goes another 3 or 4x, right? And that's where some people get to sell, but also some people unfortunately buy the top. So yeah, we'll get out there and we'll see it go to like $800. We'll be like, that sucks, but we'll probably start shorting it at 700 or something, right?
Oh God.
That's that's
Oh God.
that's how it goes.
No, like knowing myself, I'm just gonna hold it, and then I'm just gonna round trip everything because I'll believe in the tech.
Oh my.
I'll believe in the narrative too much. That's my
It's a
typical
quality
journey.
asset, so you'll never round trip it back to your entry. That's the
Okay,
good thing about
hopefully,
RV, I think.
hopefully. So, last question I have for you is: did you get addicted
Yeah.
to crypto because you made life changing money, or did you make life changing money because you were so addicted to crypto?
I would say the latter. I would say I'm very unaddicted to crypto right now. I love crypto, but I'm not addicted at all. But there were periods in my life where I was addicted to crypto. And 2018, 2019, 2020, 21 even, I was, my whole life was about crypto, right? I was doom scrolling on Twitter. I was, back then actually Twitter had quite a bit of alpha. I was doom scrolling on Twitter. I was in all the big like Telegram alpha groups. I was in Discord chatting. Like I would wake up, you know, what do they say? Like eat, breathe, sleep or something, crypto. That was me. And yeah, that helped me make a lot of money because I was, early to stuff. Finding farms before everyone else, getting in early when the yields were high. But yeah, like making all this money from crypto definitely hasn't, you know, I'm definitely not addicted to it because of that. I recognize that uh, I definitely appreciate the space for the opportunities that it has given me. Before crypto, I was like a bonds indices spread trader, and I never would have made this amount of money staying in that niche. So I definitely appreciate the space for the opportunities that it's given me, but I won't dedicate my whole life to it just because of that. There's an appreciation, but yeah, definitely still believe that balance is very key in a happy life.
Got it. Well, I think that's a good way, a good place to wrap it up. Well, thank you, Hog, for coming on. Do you have
Thank you for having me.
any final words of wisdom or advice for everyone that wants to make it?
Um, yeah, just don't be scared of being wrong. I really do believe in that tweet where, um, for like, not to drag this on, but like, as someone who tracks their trading stats, only like 31, 32% of my trades are profitable. Actually, I lose money on two-thirds of my trades. And that's the same thing when it comes to investing and everything else that I do. So I would say, yeah, just don't be afraid of being wrong. Humility is definitely key. The market is always right, but and like discipline will always be your friend. Discipline and risk management will always be your friend when you're looking to make money. Yeah,
Yeah. I think when you said the market is always right, I think that's very powerful. Because I guess when you take a trade, whether you buy or sell something, you're basically expressing an opinion that you think the market is wrong, right? You think the price should be lower or higher, whatever it
yep,
means. And as much as people say that crypto is an inefficient market, which I think is mostly true, but it is getting more efficient over time. So I think for me, over the years, I've tried to like you said, like be more humble, have more humility, and ask myself, price is trading here, but what makes me think that it should be higher? Like what makes me think that
yeah,
the market is wrong? And when I ask myself those questions, it's like, yeah, like maybe I don't have enough conviction where I can like buy this thing. And then, maybe that's also like helped me, I guess, survive, even though I still hold copious amounts of ETH, unfortunately. But yeah,
yeah.
anyways, thank you for time, Hog. I think this is a good
Thanks for having me.
conversation. Think that people will like it. And hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Bye bye.